Millionaire shocked to see female beggar girl eating leftovers alone in the mansion. Renato stepped out of his sleek black car, his eyes still dazzled by the last days of pure excess: five-star dinners, sun-drenched yachts, champagne showers. His mansion loomed ahead, a titan of glass and marble, the kind of place that screams fortune. But something was off. The grand gates creaked ominously, swinging open wider than usual, revealing shadows licking the pristine marble driveway. His heart skipped, fingers curling into fists. The heavy front door yanked open with a groan. Silence swallowed the thunder of his steps. Air felt colder, stale, as if the house had been holding its breath. He called out, "Claudia?" His voice cracked slightly, cracking the silence like brittle glass. No answer. The smell hit him next. A faint smell, sour and old, not the usual scent of lavender and fresh bread. He moved into the kitchen, where the overhead chandelier hung like a ghostly crown. Claudia, on the cold tile floor, alone. Tears carved tracks down her cheeks as she hunched over a plate of leftovers. Cold pasta, half-spilled sauce. Her hands trembled. Her face was not the sharp, composed housekeeper he'd known, but someone raw and broken, stripped of dignity. Her eyes met his for a flicker, a mix of shame, pain, and something raw, desperate. Shock clawed at Renato's throat. How had he missed this? That moment, watching her, this woman who had been a silent shadow in the corners of his too bright life, was like staring through a cracked mirror. His chest locked tight, breath shallow. His mansion, this temple of wealth and power, felt suddenly hollow. Here was a gulf no money could bridge. He took a hesitant step forward. Claudia's stare faltered, the vulnerability exploding between them like a fragile glass shattering. Behind her haunted eyes lay stories she never shared. The loss of her little boy, stolen by cruel fate. The endless grinding misery she hid beneath smiles, while Bianca, Renato's glittering shallow girlfriend, shouted insults, mocked her behind closed doors, stripped away every shred of pride. Claudia's daily battle wasn't with poverty alone, but with ghosts that gnawed her soul in silence. Renato's world tilted. For years, he'd lived wrapped in gold threads, while another human suffered unseen at his feet. The weight in his gut burned with an awful truth. He had looked away, his jaw clenched with sudden resolve. No more. Time to cut loose the poisonous ties clouding his mind. Bianca's venomous presence had poisoned his judgment too long. He wanted to protect Claudia, not as a servant, but as a person battered but not broken. But the tangled web was thicker than he imagined. Bianca's poisonous cunning and Gustavo, Renato's bitter ex-business partner, dripping with venom and revenge, moved in the shadows as Renato and C. Then a desperate idea sparked between them, a bold, raw video. They would expose the manipulations, the lies, the cruelty hidden behind the mansion's glitter. The camera captured two broken souls merging into a powerful voice. When it hit the web, the world's eyes stormed their doorstep. But relief was nowhere in sight. Danger surged, as threats roared louder and truths clawed out from the dark. Renato saw deeper scars etched on Claudia's spirit and understood her fragile hope was tied to him. Just when they thought they could breathe, a sudden, chilling confrontation threw everything into chaos. Trust shattered, danger closing in. What secrets will the shadows whisper next? Who truly holds the power in this game? And how far will they go just to survive? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button. I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Renato stepped back, the air thick with tension. He and Claudia exchanged a glance. A breath of shared understanding crackled between them. There was comfort in their silent pact, a chance to rewrite their story. But just as hope began to bloom, chaos erupted. From the shadows emerged Gustavo, eyes narrow and menacing. His arrival felt like thunder clashing in a clear sky. "What are you doing here?" Renato demanded, heart racing. Claudia scrambled to her feet, panic flashing in her eyes. Gustavo's lips twisted into a cruel smile. "You think this is your fairy tale, Renato?" he sneered, voice thick with disdain. "You think you can just cut ties and ride into the sunset with your little housekeeper? Stay out of this." Renato's voice trembled, but deep down, fear gripped him. What did Gustavo want? "Too late," Gustavo said, stepping closer, invading their space. Secrets don't just vanish, they bubble to the surface. His eyes turned to Claudia, glinting with malicious delight. "Isn't that right, Claudia?" Renato's heart sank. What did he mean? The tightness in his chest tightened further. Claudia's face blanched, the color draining from her cheeks. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, but her trembling hands betrayed her. Gustavo took another step, eyes glinting like shards of glass. "You really don't know?" he mocked. "Or perhaps you simply forgot about that forgotten little detail, the one I'm about to remind you of." Everything felt like it slurred down, the tension thick in the air. "What are you saying?" Renato asked, confusion swirling. With a swift flick of his wrist, Gustavo pulled out a crumpled document from his pocket, tossing it onto the kitchen counter like a bomb. "Your family secret, the one that binds you to Claudia in ways you can't even imagine." Claudia's breath hitched, her eyes darting to the paper. She hesitated before lunging for it, but Renato intercepted her. "No, what is it?" As his hands gripped the edges of the document, a chilling wave washed over him. The words leapt at him, a familiar name, haunting and terrifying. "This can't be real." His voice cracked like ice. Claudia's face twisted in horror. You shouldn't read that." She shrieked, but it was too late. The truth poured into his mind, drowning him in disbelief. Renato stumbled backward, the room spinning. The air was suffocating, his mansion suddenly feeling like a prison. You knew?" "Renato, I swear, I was trying to protect you." Claudia's voice broke, those tears running deeper than before. I thought I could keep it hidden." Behind them, the silence stretched taut, every second heavy with unspoken words. Gustavo's laughter echoed like a death knell. "Protect him? From what? The truth? It's too late for that, sweetheart." Renato's pulse thundered in his ears. He couldn't breathe. The walls closed in. "But why? Why would you keep this from me?" Claudia's hands fell to her sides, hollow and empty. "Because I wanted to shield you," she cried out, her voice trembling with fear and regret. "Shield me?" Renato spat, fury and hurt clashing inside him. "Or keep me in the dark?" The weight of the revelation hung in the air like a storm cloud, dark and heavy. Trust had shattered like glass between them. Then came the sound of distant sirens, the world outside intruding at the worst moment. This was just the beginning. What was the truth bound together with his mansion, his life, Claudia? As panic clenched tighter, Renato felt the ground shift beneath him. The depths of betrayal would become clearer. But would he crumble under the weight? Or uncover the deeper web of lies that tied them all to one another? The battle was far from over, and the shadows loomed larger than ever. Renato stumbled back, the air thick with tension. He and Claudia exchanged a glance, a breath of shared understanding, crackling between them. There was comfort in their silent pact, a chance to rewrite their story. But just as hope began to bloom, chaos erupted. From the shadows emerged Gustavo, eyes narrow and menacing. His arrival felt like thunder, clashing in a clear sky. "What are you doing here?" Renato demanded, heart racing. Claudia scrambled to her feet, panic flashing in her eyes. Gustavo's lips twisted into a cruel smile. "You think this is your fairy tale, Renato?" he sneered, voice thick with disdain. "You think you can just cut ties and ride into the sunset with your little housekeeper? Stay out of this!" Renato's voice trembled, but deep down, fear gripped him. What did Gustavo want? "Too late," Gustavo said, stepping closer, invading their space. Secrets don't just vanish, they bubble to the surface. His eyes turned to Claudia, glinting with malicious delight. "Isn't that right, Claudia?" Renato's heart sank. What did he mean? The tightness in his chest tightened further. Claudia's face blanched, the color draining from her cheeks. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, but her trembling hands betrayed her. Gustavo took another step, eyes glinting like shards of glass. "You really don't know?" he mocked. "Or perhaps you simply forgot about that forgotten little detail, the one I'm about to remind you of." Everything felt like it slowed down, the tension thick in the air. "What are you saying?" Renato asked, confusion swirling. With a swift flick of his wrist, Gustavo pulled out a crumpled document from his pocket, tossing it onto the kitchen counter like a bomb. "Your family's secret, the one that binds you to Claudia in ways you can't even imagine." Claudia's breath hitched, her eyes darting to the paper. She hesitated before lunging for it, but Renato intercepted her. "No, what is it?" As his hands gripped the edges of the document, a chilling wave washed over him. The words leapt at him. A familiar name, haunting and terrifying. This can't be real." His voice cracked like ice. Claudia's face twisted in horror. You shouldn't read that," she shrieked, but it was too late. The truth poured into his mind, drowning him in disbelief. Renato stumbled backward, the room spinning. The air was suffocating, his mansion suddenly feeling like a prison. You knew? Renato, I swear I was trying to protect you." Claudia's voice broke, those tears running deeper than before. I thought I could keep it hidden." Behind them, the silence stretched taut, every second heavy with unspoken words. Gustavo's laughter echoed like a death knell. "Protect him? From what? The truth? It's too late for that, sweetheart." Renato's pulse thundered in his ears. He couldn't breathe. The walls closed in. "But why? Why would you keep this from me?" Claudia's hands fell to her sides, hollow and empty. "Because I wanted to shield you," she cried out, her voice trembling with fear and regret. "Shield me?" Renato spat, fury and hurt clashing inside him. "Or keep me in the dark?" The weight of the revelation hung in the air like a storm cloud, dark and heavy. Trust had shattered like glass between them. Then came the sound of distant sirens, the world outside intruding at the worst moment. This was just the beginning. What was the truth bound together with his mansion, his life, Claudia? Just then, everything changed. The heavy front door flew open with a shattering crash, and a figure burst into the kitchen. It was Bianca, breathless and wild-eyed, clutching a box tightly to her chest. "I know everything," she screamed, the chaos of the moment swallowing her words whole. Everyone froze. In that moment, she was both a threat and a lifeline. She looked at Renato with desperation, rushing to his side. "You need to see this, now." Without waiting for his response, she ripped open the box, revealing stacks of documents, photos, and what looked like old newspaper clippings. The air turned electric with disbelief. Renato leaned closer, confusion washing over him. Inside were photographs of a younger Claudia with a little boy, laughter frozen in time. Renato's heart sank further as he realized the boy was him. "What is this?" he gasped, his voice barely a whisper. Claudia paled. No, that can't be." But there it was, the proof laid bare before them. "You were the one who—" Renato couldn't finish. And then, the final blow, an article caught his eye. "Mysterious Mansion Fire Claims Young Family," the headline read, with a date that tied everything together. Claudia's eyes widened, realizing it too. Renato stumbled back, blinking in disbelief. The deeper connections exposed were like a noose tightening around their throats. "Who are you really, Claudia?" Everything he thought he knew shattered into fragments. The truth crawled closer like an approaching storm. In that moment, Renato realized he wasn't just unearthing Claudia's secrets. His own life was tied to a tragedy he never understood. "Where do we go from here?" he whispered. The weight of everything they had known, everything they had built, now hanging by a thread. The room was silent, the world outside a distant echo. Who were they really? The shadows they had tried to escape were now nipping at their heels. What lay ahead was no longer clear, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same. Renato stumbled back, the air thick with tension. He and Claudia exchanged a glance, a breath of shared understanding crackling between them. There was comfort in their silent pact, a chance to rewrite their story. But just as hope began to bloom, chaos erupted. From the shadows emerged Gustavo, eyes narrow and menacing. His arrival felt like thunder clashing in a clear sky. "What are you doing here?" Renato demanded, heart racing. Claudia scrambled to her feet, panic flashing in her eyes. Gustavo's lips twisted into a cruel smile. "You think this is your fairy tale, Renato?" he sneered, voice thick with disdain. "You think you can just cut ties and ride into the sunset with your little housekeeper?" "Stay out of this," Renato's voice trembled. But deep down, fear gripped him. What did Gustavo want? "Too late," Gustavo said, stepping closer, invading their space. "Secrets don't just vanish. They bubble to the surface." His eyes turned to Claudia, glinting with malicious delight. "Isn't that right, Claudia?" Renato's heart sank. What did he mean? The tightness in his chest tightened further. Claudia's face blanched, the color draining from her cheeks. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, but her trembling hands betrayed her. Gustavo took another step, eyes glinting like shards of glass. "You really don't know?" he mocked. "Or perhaps you simply forgot about that forgotten little detail, the one I'm about to remind you of." Everything felt like it slowed down, the tension thick in the air. "What are you saying?" Renato asked, confusion swirling. With a swift flick of his wrist, Gustavo pulled out a crumpled document from his pocket, tossing it onto the kitchen counter like a bomb. "Your family secret. The one that binds you to Claudia in ways you can't even imagine." Claudia's breath hitched, her eyes darting to the paper. She hesitated before lunging for it, but Renato intercepted her. "No, what is it?" As his hands gripped the edges of the document, a chilling wave washed over him. The words leapt at him, a familiar name, haunting and terrifying. This can't be real." His voice cracked like ice. Claudia's face twisted in horror. You shouldn't read that," she shrieked. But it was too late. The truth poured into his mind, drowning him in disbelief. Renato stumbled backward, the room spinning. The air was suffocating, his mansion suddenly feeling like a prison. You knew?" "Renato, I swear, I was trying to protect you," Claudia's voice broke, those tears running deeper than before. I thought I could keep it hidden." Behind them, the silence stretched taut, every second heavy with unspoken words. Gustavo's laughter echoed like a death knell. "Protect him? From what? The truth? It's too late for that, sweetheart. Renato's pulse thundered in his ears. He couldn't breathe. The walls closed in. But why? Why would you keep this from me? Claudia's hands fell to her sides, hollow and empty. Because I wanted to shield you, she cried out, her voice trembling with fear and regret. Shield me? Renato spat, fury and hurt clashing inside him. Or keep me in the dark? The weight of the revelation hung in the air like a storm cloud, dark and heavy. Trust had shattered like glass between them. Then came the sound of distant sirens, the world outside intruding at the worst moment. This was just the beginning. What was the truth bound together with his mansion, his life? Claudia. Just then, everything changed. The heavy front door flew open with a shattering crash, and a figure burst into the kitchen. It was Bianca, breathless and wild-eyed, clutching a box tightly to her chest. "I know everything!" she screamed, the chaos of the moment swallowing her words whole. Everyone froze. In that moment, she was both a threat and a lifeline. She looked at Renato with desperation, rushing to his side. "You need to see this, now!" Without waiting for his response, she ripped open the box, revealing stacks of documents, photos, and what looked like old newspaper clippings. The air turned electric with disbelief. Renato leaned closer, confusion washing over him. Inside were photographs of a younger Claudia with a little boy, laughter frozen in time. Renato's heart sank further as he realized. The boy was him. "What is this?" he gasped, his voice barely a whisper. Claudia paled. No, that can't be." But there it was, the proof laid bare before them. "You were the one who—" Renato couldn't finish. And then, the final blow. An article caught his eye. "Mysterious Mansion Fire Claims Young Family." The headline read, with a date that tied everything together. Claudia's eyes widened, realizing it too. Renato stumbled back, blinking in disbelief. The deeper connections exposed were like a noose tightening around their throats. Who are you really, Claudia? Everything he thought he knew shattered into fragments. The truth crawled closer like an approaching storm. "Where do we go from here?" he whispered, the weight of everything they had known, everything they had built, now hanging by a thread. But just as silence thickened, a gripping sound sliced through the air. A gunshot. Panic erupted. Claudia screamed, falling to the floor, clutching her shoulder. Blood blossomed against her shirt, shocking everyone into motion. Renato rushed to her side, his heart racing. "Claudia, no!" He felt warmth pooling beneath his hands, her life slipping away. Bianca's expression shifted from desperation to horror, her own fear unveiled. "What have you done, Gustavo?" Gustavo stood frozen, his face pale, the gun still smoking in his hand. It wasn't meant to be like this. His words hung heavy in the air, revealing a terror he hadn't planned. Time froze, the walls closed in, and betrayal wrapped around them like a vice. The truth shattered, the gunshot echoing as reality crashed down around them. In that moment of chaos, everything was questioned. Who were they really? What secrets lay tangled in the aftermath of pain? The stakes had risen, and so had the dangers. As the sirens grew louder, Renato looked at Claudia's trembling form, realizing their fight had just begun. But at what cost? Renato knelt beside Claudia, fear coiling tightly in his chest. Her breathing was labored, the crimson pooling beneath his fingers stark against the cold tile. "Hold on, Claudia, help is coming." But deep down, a chilling thought crept in. What if it was too late? Bianca's face twisted in horror, panic boiling over. "What have you done, Gustavo?" Her eyes darted, searching for escape routes that weren't there. Gustavo stood frozen, disbelief written all over his sharp features. I didn't mean." His words were hollow, echoing against the high walls of the mansion. He backed away, the gun hanging limply from his fingers. I thought I was strong enough. It was clear he was unraveling, and Renato couldn't shake the feeling something deeper lingered in the air. Then came a loud crash. The door swung wide open, and heavy footsteps thundered in. The police barged in, shouts blending with the chaos. "Drop the weapon!" Renato's heart raced. "No, don't shoot!" He pushed himself between Claudia and the doorway. He had to protect her, even as panic clawed at his throat. "She needs help." The officers hesitated, shock spilling onto their faces. In that heartbeat, everything changed. Claudia gasped, the realization igniting in her eyes. "Renato, look out!" Before he could respond, a third figure emerged from the darkness of the hallway, his own father, Victor. A tall silhouette framed by the doorway, his expression stoic and grim. "Drop the gun, Gustavo." "What's up?" In remembering his prowler, "My son, we can talk this through." Victor stepped further inside, his authoritative tone calming the chaos momentarily. "Listen to me, son. We can talk this through." Gustavo seemed startled, caught in the crossfire of emotions. You know him." Victor shot back. "Whatever happens, do not trust him." His eyes darted toward Claudia, concern etched in every line of his face. "Get her out of here. Now." But as Renato turned, the truth slammed into him with the force of a freight train. Victor wasn't just concerned. He knew. "You knew about this." He felt a surge of anger, pulse, pushing against the walls of hurt built up over years. "I had no choice." Victor's face was a mask of sorrow. "You were never supposed to find out. You knew about Claudia's past, about the little boy." Each word came out heavier, laced with disbelief. "Renato." Gustavo shook his head, desperation creeping in. "Don't listen to him. This is all—" But the air was thick with tension. Claudia moaned softly, clutching her wound. Fear mixed with anger surged within Renato. How could the men in his life, his father, his partner, betray him so completely? In the chaos, something broke inside him, a shard of realization cutting through all the confusion. "What else are you hiding? Who are you really, Claudia?" The silence that followed was deafening. Claudia's eyes fell, guilt overwhelming her like a tidal wave. "I didn't want you to know. I thought I could protect you." A moment stretched like eternity, the weight of the secrets echoing louder than the sirens outside. And just when he thought the revelations couldn't get worse, another gunshot rang out, but this time the glint of metal came not from Gustavo's trembling hand. A shot fired from the police side, hitting someone in the shadows. A figure slumped to the ground, and the air filled with gasps. Who was that?" Everyone turned, eyes wide, dread creeping in. The figure rolled over, and what lay beneath was a face that sent shockwaves through the room. His mother. "I never wanted you to know," she whispered. Blood dripped from her lips, painting a tragic picture. Everything fractured at that moment. Renato's world turned upside down. The woman he thought he had lost long ago was here, clinging to life amidst the chaos. Secrets unraveled around him, threads snapping one by one. Who could he trust now? The truth echoed painfully. Nothing was ever what it seemed. In that moment of devastation, the stakes rose higher. Confusion clouded hope. Love morphed into betrayal. What lay ahead? Would they survive the truth? Or would it consume them all? The shadows loomed larger than ever, and darkness whispered promises of conflict yet to come. Renato's gaze locked on his mother's pale form, heart pounding in his chest. "Mom? No, please." The world blurred around him as his mind reeled. The woman he thought lost to fire, standing here, yet so far gone. Blood dripped like ink, carving a cruel story across the floor. Claudia lay moaning, clutching her shoulder, panic skittering in her eyes. The two women he cared for, not just a servant, not just a memory, were both drowning in the chaos. It was too much, too unreal. Someone help! Renato shouted, desperation clawing through him. Victor stepped forward, eyes sharp and focused. Call an ambulance, now! His voice sliced through the panic, cutting a path of urgency. But for Renato, time stood still, a weight pressing down on him. Bianca flinched, her hands trembling at her sides. We can't let them die here. Her face was pale, fear spilling over as confusion morphed into something darker. Gustavo's eyes darted around. I didn't mean to, he stuttered, panic erupting beneath his bravado. But no one paid him any attention. The sirens wailed ever closer. Renato turned back to his mother, his voice a whisper. Why didn't you tell me? Why? He was desperate for answers, for the truth that had eluded him for so long. But instead, she looked at him with haunted eyes. I tried to keep you safe. Her voice wavered like a fragile thread, unraveling in front of him. The tension suffocated him. The truth, buried beneath layers of grief and loss, pressed against his chest. Safe? From what? From who? And then, from the shadows, another figure emerged, an older woman with hard-lined features, dressed in muted colors, an air of authority surrounding her like a storm. You should have known better, Renato. Her voice was low, authoritative, chilling. This was never your fight. What? Who the hell are you? Renato's temper flared, but deep inside, fragments began to fit together with unsettling clarity. I'm here to bring balance, she replied, stepping further into the room. I've been waiting for this moment. Your family's history, it's all connected. She paused, allowing her words to sink in, each one like a nail in his heart. Connected? How? Renato's voice trembled. The woman pulled out a small worn locket from her pocket, holding it up. This is what connects you to your past. She opened it, revealing 2 photographs, a young boy and an even younger Claudia. The world fell silent, like the air sucked from the room. What are you saying? Claudia's voice cracked, fear spinning wild. This boy, your brother, Renato. The boy was never lost. He was taken. Renato staggered back, a tremor of disbelief rippling through him. No, that can't be. His voice broke, each word a struggle. How do you know? Because I've watched over your family for generations. I know the darkness that lurks in your lineage, the lies, the hidden truths. It's time you face it. Her eyes locked onto his, fierce and unyielding. The fire wasn't an accident. It was a cover-up. Bile rose in Renato's throat. Every thread of his life seemed to spin out of control. The loss he thought was incomprehensible was woven deeper than he knew. Who started the fire? He could hardly breathe, the revelation pressing so heavily it threatened to snap him. The truth is buried deeper still. Her breath caught, urgency flaring in her tone. You have to find it before they come for you next. A sudden crash echoed from the front of the house. The police had arrived, voices rising above the tumult. But Renato felt like he was slipping into the abyss of revelations. What is happening? He thought, panic enveloping him like a shroud. The truth had become an unyielding shadow, threatening to engulf them. Stay together, his mother rasped, looking between Renato and Claudia as sirens wailed outside. You must protect each other. The room surged with chaos, eyes wide in disbelief. Another gunshot, not from Gustavo, but outside, shattered the fragile stillness. What now? Renato shouted, heart hammering in his ears. But as they braced for the storm, the old woman's voice rose above all the clamor. You are not just fighting for your lives. You are fighting for the truth of your family. The past is coming for you, Renato. And it wants blood. Everything tightened within him. He felt it then. A shift, a current running deep. This was no longer just a fight for survival. This was a battle against the shadows that had haunted his family for too long. As chaos erupted around them, and secrets spun like webs in the air. He knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. Who would emerge from the shadows as enemies, and who would step forward as allies? The true fight had just begun, and the stakes had never been higher. As the chaos swirled around them, Renato's heart pounded in his chest like a drum. His mother lay there, pale and weak. Claudia moaned softly beside him, blood pooling beneath her. The sound of sirens echoed closer, urgency thrumming in the air. Victor took charge, barking orders at the police. "Get a medic in here, now." His gaze pinned Gustavo, suspicion mingling with fear. But Renato felt paralyzed, every breath filled with dread. "Mom," he whispered, the lump in his throat tightening. "Don't leave me." She met his eyes, pain etched across her features. "I'm sorry, Renato." So many lies. Suddenly, a crash echoed from the front of the house. The door splintered open, and several figures rushed in, men in dark suits with determination in their eyes. Their presence shifted the air, tension snapping like a rubber band stretched too far. One man stood forward, calm and poised. He raised a hand. "We're here for the boy." Everyone froze. The title hung heavy in the room. "What?" Renato's breath hitched. "This isn't your fight," Victor said sharply, stepping in front of Renato. "Back off." The man's steely gaze didn't waver. "You're wrong." "He deserves to know," Claudia gasped, pain momentarily forgotten. "What boy?" She struggled to sit up, her eyes wide in disbelief. "Renato, they're after you." Another voice broke through the chaos, that of a police officer, urgency pushing him forward. "Evacuate, you need to." But the suited men closed in. "Renato's family is steeped in shadows. This is bigger than you think." Everything inside Renato twisted, anger clawed at him. "What do you mean by that?" Their leader stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The truth about the fire, about your brother, it's not what you've been told." "I don't have a brother," Renato shouted, every fiber in his being screaming against the thought. But doubt began to bubble. He remembered the photos, the locket, they all tied back. "I'm not the enemy," the man pressed, eyes piercing through Renato's fear. It knocked the wind from him. Victor inhaled sharply, tension radiating off his body. "You're lying. Get out." But the man held firm. "You have to understand. You were kept in the dark. There are forces at play you cannot see." And then something unexpected happened. A deafening bang echoed suddenly, shaking the room. Everyone turned at once, a jarring sound cutting through the dense air like a knife. The commotion brought everything to a halt. It came from the back of the mansion. What was that? Renato felt his chest tighten as a tight knot of fear formed. "Stay back," he yelled, instinct pushing him towards his mother. But as he looked toward the hallway, he caught sight of an officer stumbling back, clutching his shoulder. Then, moments later, another officer raced in, face stricken with shock. "There's a body," he stammered, breathless. A chill settled over the group, fear turning palpable. The very definition of their reality shattered with that sentence. What had happened? "This can't be happening," Bianco whispered, backing away. The suited man turned, his stoicism cracking, an edge of panic flickering in his eyes. "They've come for you, Renato. We need to move. Now." And then it all clicked. Who were these men? Why did they want him? In that instant, every lie unraveled further, shattering what he knew. His brother, the past, everything was crumbling. "Follow us if you want to survive," the leader urged, urgency layering his words. But then, another shot rang out. The force struck one of the officers. Chaos erupted. Bodies moved, screams intertwined with the piercing wails of sirens outside. Renato's world spun, emotions crashing like waves. Claudia, bleeding on the floor. His mother, weak and fading. Voices shouted, fear permeating the air thick. No one was safe anymore. Trust shattered into fragments, nothing clear, nothing certain. As fear settled around him like thick fog, he realized he had walked into a storm he never understood. The past loomed, dark and elusive. And as they struggled to escape, one question weighed heavily. Would he find the truth, or become just another shadow in this twisted tale? As the chaos swirled around them, Renato felt the pounding of his heart echo through the madness. His mother was weak and fading. Claudia lay beside him, eyes fluttering, blood pooling beneath her. Sirens wailed closer, carrying with them a sense of urgency that felt almost suffocating. Victor was shouting, barking orders at the police, demanding they call for an ambulance, demanding they secure the scene. But in that moment, Renato felt paralyzed, caught bet. "Mom, please don't leave me," he whispered, desperation lining his voice. But even as she looked at him, a flicker of pain mixed with guilt shadowed her features. "I tried, Renato, so many lies." Her voice trailed off, and he could see the life draining out of her. He wanted answers, but the atmosphere snapped as a crash reverberated through the room, drawing everyone's attention to the front hall. The door burst open again, revealing a group of dark-clothed figures. They rushed in like wolves, eyes glinting with intent. "Get the boy!" shouted one of them, voice cut from steel. Renato's back stiffened. Panic clawed at him, gripping tighter. "What do you want from me?" he yelled, stepping in front of his mother and holding Claudia's hand, trying to protect them from the storm gathering around him. The lead figure, tall and menacing, stepped closer, unflinching. "You hold the key to everything, and it's time you face what lies ahead." "What are you talking about?" Renato's anger flared. "I don't know what you want. I don't even know who you are." With a single flick of his wrist, the man displayed a photograph. It trembled in the air, and for a heartbeat, time hung suspended. It was a picture of a boy, his brother, a ghost from the past he had never known. But the boy's eyes, he recognized them. "No, that can't be." In that instant, the world narrowed down to that image. A tidal wave of memories crashed over him. Youthful laughter, flickering shadows in a nursery, pieces of a life ripped away, leaving him empty. "How do you have this?" he demanded, feeling his stomach churn. "Hiding won't work anymore," the figure snarled. "You are part of a legacy you can't escape. The tragedy that took your brother is the same darkness that wants to claim you." Just as Renato opened his mouth to retaliate, a deafening bang echoed through the air. The very walls vibrated. A gun went off. "Claudia!" Renato shrieked, but then he looked down to see a shot had struck at the feet of the intruders. There was chaos. Bodies moved, whispers of panic spun like a storm. And then, something truly unexpected happened. Out of the smoke surged a familiar figure, Bianca. Wild-eyed and frantic. "I can't let it happen, not again," she shouted, pulling out her own weapon. But the shock washed over Renato like cold water. "Bianca, what?" "I had to do it," she screamed, voice trembling, glancing desperately around the room. "You don't understand. They're not who you think they are." Before anyone could react, the world pitched sideways as she aimed the gun. But who was it aimed at? No one could tell. Was she a threat or a savior? But in that moment of confusion, the lead figure from earlier lunged forward. Bianca pulled the trigger, and the shot rang out. Everything froze, hearts racing, breaths hitching. A body fell. Renato's heart dropped. It was Victor. "Dad!" he shouted, but it was too late. The world crumbled under the weight of betrayal. Victor's body crumpled like a rag doll, blood pooling on the floor, reality fracturing around them. "What have you done?" Renato yelled, every word soaked in disbelief and devastation. Bianca stood there, wide-eyed in horror, gun trembling. I thought he was coming for you. I had to protect you. He felt sick, legs unsteady. The chaos swirled around them, but all he could see was his father's lifeless form, memories crashing against the pain. The question loomed. Who could he trust when betrayal wore that familiar face? In that moment of horror, every certainty shattered. Relationships were torn apart. Dark shadows flickered over the room, whispering secrets that changed everything. In a heartbeat, nothing would ever be the same. As he knelt by Victor, tears pouring, he felt the darkness closing in. What lay beneath the surface? The shadows grew heavier, taunting him with unseen truths. The fight was far from over, and that realization crushed his soul. Who would rise from the ashes, and who would remain trapped within them? Renato knelt beside Victor's lifeless form, disbelief washing over him like a tidal wave. "Dad?" The word felt foreign on his tongue, heavy with sorrow. The chaos swirled around him, but all he could focus on was the blood pooling beneath them. Darkness creeping into his vision. Claudia lay moaning nearby, clutching her wound, eyes wide with shock. "Renato, please." Her voice cut through the fog, pulling him back to the moment. "Stay with me." He felt a swell of panic, the air thick with desperation. Would he lose her too? Bianca stood frozen, gun shaking in her hands, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean to." "Enough," shouted the man from the shadows, stepping forward, his voice a sharp blade. "This isn't just a mess, it's a crisis. We can't waste time." Renato turned to him, confusion bubbling to the surface. "What do you mean?" Before the man could answer, another deafening bang erupted from the hallway. The sound was different, dull and heavy. "Get down!" someone yelled, as gunfire erupted outside, sending a shudder through the walls. Chaos exploded, bodies scrambling for safety. Renato instinctively shielded Claudia, pulling her toward him. "Where's the exit?" he shouted, adrenaline surging through him. "Back this way," one of the officers called, glancing nervously towards the chaos unfolding outside. But just then, everything pivoted. From the edge of the doorway, another figure emerged, a tall woman clad in white, her face obscured. "Stop," she commanded, voice ice-cold. In that moment, time slowed. Everyone paused. The air crackled with tension. "Who are you?" Renato demanded, his voice shaky yet defiant. She stepped closer, pulling back her hood, revealing familiar features, haunting and ethereal. It was his mother, alive and well, a ghost rising from shadows time had forgotten. "I've returned for you, Renato." The room fell silent, confusion and disbelief crashing over him like waves. "What do you mean? How is this possible?" Victor's lifeless form lay at his feet, but all Renato could see was the woman who had vanished years ago, the mother he mourned. "You were supposed to be dead." "I was hiding," she replied, her eyes flashing with regret. "And now it's too late." "Too late for what?" The world around them blurred, but she pressed on, her voice fierce. "The fire wasn't an accident. It was a warning. They've come for you, Renato. They need the key." At her words, the pieces began to converge. The boy in the pictures, the secrets buried deep, and then another bang. The door burst open, and the lead figure from before lunged forward, panting, rage etched into his features. "We need him now." But as he reached for Renato, Bianca raised her gun again. "Stay back." The tension exploded. Renato, heart racing, felt like the floor was collapsing beneath him. Everything spiraled, shadows closing in like a thick fog. The woman in white turned to the chaos. "No, stop!" she cried, stretching out a hand. But it was too late. A gun fired, and in an instant, the world shattered. The bullet struck the woman, and Renato watched in horror as she crumpled to the ground, life draining from her eyes. "No, Mom!" he screamed, rushing to her side. But as he knelt, An unforeseen truth hit him like a freight train. She turned her gaze, whispering, "I had to protect you, the truth." And then she was gone. The air fell silent, leaving only the haunting echo of her words. Everything he thought he knew collapsed like a house of cards. The shadows danced, hiding secrets he was only beginning to uncover. In that moment, as the chaos continued to unfold around them, Renato felt a fire ignite within him. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The game was changing, and he had to discover the truth, no matter the cost. "Who's after me?" he demanded, looking around at the shocked faces. As fear gripped everyone, a new determination surged through him. There were forces at play that went beyond him, beyond anything he could comprehend. And as the shadows loomed larger, one final thought echoed in his mind. He had no idea who to trust anymore. Renato knelt on the ground, panic tightening his chest as he stared at the lifeless body of his mother. "Why?" he whispered, the ache in his voice cutting through the chaos around him. Tears filled his eyes as he reached for her. Wishing he could turn back time, wishing he could stop this madness. "Gee," the lead figure shouted, urgency slicing through the air like a knife. "They're coming!" Bianca stood frozen, the reality crashing down on her. "What have I done?" she murmured, her voice trembling with shock. "Don't think about that now," Renato yelled, clenching his fists. He felt the weight of despair, the shadows closing in. "We've got to go." Claudia, pale and trembling, looked toward the open door, where chaos erupted outside. "They were after you, Renato. We need to escape." The gunfire intensified, voices rising in panic. Renato grabbed Claudia's hand, feeling her warmth slip away beneath the tension. A sudden rush of determination surged through him. He couldn't let fear control him anymore. "Follow me," he shouted, urging them toward a nearby hallway. As they stumbled through, the sound of his father's voice echoed in his mind. The truths untold, the legacy tying them together. He had to confront it all, for the sake of everyone he loved. "Get to the back door," an officer shouted, her voice cutting through the din. "I'll hold them off." Renato nodded, his heart pounding. "You have to hurry," he urged Claudia and Bianca. With every step, the adrenaline surged, pushing him forward. They burst through the back door into the cool night air. The stars above looked like a cruel reminder of everything they'd lost, and everything yet to come. The sounds of chaos faded slightly, but the fear still gripped his heart. "Where do we go?" Claudia gasped, her hand clutching her wound. "There's a warehouse down the road," Renato replied, needing to think clearly. "We can hide there until we figure this out." Suddenly, a loud shout rang out from the mansion. "They're escaping! Run!" Renato yelled. The trio sprinted toward the dimly lit warehouse, breaths sharp and ragged, legs straining against the urgency. As they reached the entrance, they ducked inside. Renato pressed against the cold wall. "Hard racing. We can't stay here forever." Bianca trembled, her face drawn as she wiped away tears. "I didn't mean for any of this." "There's no time for regrets," Renato replied, steel in his voice. "We have to stick together." "Together," Claudia echoed, determination flickering in her eyes despite the pain. The weight of family secrets hung heavy. The essence of survival surged in Renato's veins. "We'll figure it out," he promised. "We have to face whatever comes next." In that moment, the air felt electric with possibility. They would confront the shadows, uncover the truth, and break free from the past binding them. Hope flickered through the darkness. As they stepped deeper into the warehouse, a haunting realization settled. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about unraveling the mysterious thread of fate that connected them all. But just when their bodies began to relax, the warehouse door slammed open. They turned, startled. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway. "You thought you could escape?" Tension filled the room, heavy and palpable. the secrets were coming to a head. "Who are you?" Renato demanded, pushing forward. The stranger stepped inside, revealing a face molded by regret and heaviness. "I've come to help you, but we don't have much time." The air shifted again, swirling with uncertainty. Hope flickered amidst the shadows. But could they trust this newcomer? The stakes were high. As eyes locked in a tense standoff, Renato took a breath, bracing for whatever revelation awaited them. The truth was close, but lurking just out of reach. Right then, an urgent thought hit him. You must subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that unravel from this unfolding mystery. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how this ends. And don't wait one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this thrilling conclusion. This is the moment to show your support.